Hi, and welcome to the Pink Movement podcast with your host, Christy Collier. Each episode, you'll hear from some awesome people in and around the breast cancer world, sharing their wisdom on all things health and well-being. You'll hear simple information, practical advice, and useful tips to help you stress less, move more, and feel better.
Hi, I'm Christy Collier, and welcome to another episode of the Pink Movement podcast. Please note that this podcast contains general information only and should not be treated as medical advice. We're now on to episode 9, which is really exciting. For those of you listening through iTunes, make sure you're subscribed. And to help us reach more women with a breast cancer diagnosis, take some time today to go to iTunes and leave us a quick 5-star review if you can. That would be wonderful. Now, today's episode is all about using technology, or more specifically, using apps to help us to manage, support, and improve our health and well-being. What you'll learn today is 7 steps to researching and finding your own suite of apps. I share with you my favourite apps that I've been using since my breast cancer diagnosis to improve my health and well-being. And last but certainly not least, you are going to learn all about the number 1 cancer app in Australia, the US and the UK, CancerAid. Now I'm chatting with one half of the founding duo, Nikhil Pooviah, and his partner Raghav Murali-Ganesh jumps in halfway through for a quick chat as well. If you've watched the season of Shark Tank just recently, you actually would have seen these 2 young doctors talking about their CancerAid app. These guys had all 5 sharks wanting to invest, which if you've watched the show is no mean feat. There are so many tangible takeaways in today's episode, so don't forget to visit the website, thepinkmovement.com.au, for all the information from the show, including the links and downloads. Now, let's get into it. Dr. Nikhil Pooviah and Dr. Raghav Murali-Ganesh are the co-founders of CancerAid, a cancer management and support app. Nick, a radiation oncology advanced trainee, and Raghav, a radiation oncologist, were working together in the cancer ward at Chris O'Brien Lifehouse in Sydney when they saw the need for providing diagnosed patients with a better information source. With a vision of improving healthcare outcomes with the use of digital tools, they designed and developed the CancerAid app. The app quickly received investment and started to progress, which led them to the bold decision of making the move from clinical medicine to digital medicine. Nick and Raghav have now discovered a new skill set in entrepreneurship that allows them to apply their medical background to help improve the lives of patients on a larger scale. The guys have won many awards, been featured in publications all around the world, and recently, some of you may have seen this, they were on the Australian TV show Shark Tank. They are true innovators and are impacting the lives of cancer patients and carers around the world. Now, I am thrilled to welcome one half of this duo, Nick, to the Pink Movement podcast today. Welcome, Nick.
Thanks, Chrissy. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Now, we're going to get chatting to Nick in a moment, but first of all, we're just going to touch on today's topic, and that is using apps to support our health and well-being after a breast cancer diagnosis. Now, this is not a new concept, but the growth in this space over the past few years has been just phenomenal. So amongst other things, apps can help you monitor your physical activity, plan healthier meals, learn new skills, and keep track of data. There's lots of research that suggests that people are much more likely to adopt healthy behaviours when guided by an app as well. So, following a breast cancer diagnosis, it's probably time to start thinking about embracing technology, which I know can be daunting for some of you, but, it's time to probably get on board and find some apps that work for you. So, if you want to research and find your own apps, I've got some tips that might help. Firstly, identify the areas you want some help in and do some research. Then ask for recommendations from people you trust, any of your medical team, your physio, your PT. Then look for some apps with credibility, those that are created by established health professionals, advocacy groups, or medical organisations. Narrow it down to a few in each area and take them for a test drive. Now, that may eat up some of the memory on your phone, but then you can just delete the ones that you don't want to use later. Make sure you read the fine print. It's really important that you know how your personal data will be used. And finally, although the majority of apps are free, just make sure you double check for any in-app purchases that might pop up. And once you've done all of that, you'll have your personalized suite of apps and be able to use them to improve your health and well-being and hopefully make your life a little bit easier. There's a few of my favorite apps that I would like to share with you that I've used since my breast cancer diagnosis. First is Map My Run, a fitness tracking app, and I use that to record all of my walks, and it essentially measures distance, pace, speed, etc. MyFitnessPal, which I use for food choices and monitoring my calorie intake and also recording my weight. Headspace, which is an absolutely fantastic app for meditation and mindfulness. And for those that have never done those things, it essentially teaches you how to do it. Med Advisor is an Aussie app which helps you keep track of your medications. Nike Training Club, a real favourite of mine, loaded with workouts that vary in time, type and intensity, so no excuses for not doing any exercise. And Recharge, which is an app by Reach Out, and it's essentially a 6-week program focused on improving mood, energy and well-being by putting in place good sleep and wake patterns. So quite a unique concept there, and I've done it once and it is fantastic, so can really recommend it. But what we're here to talk about today, what's been missing for some time now is an app specifically for cancer management. I'm really excited about the CancerAid app that Nick and Raghav have developed and are essentially filling this gap. And I'm going to now pepper Nick with questions to tell us all about it. So Nick, can you let us know exactly what the CancerAid app is and how it works?
Yeah, CancerAid is an app that we designed 3 years ago. It was designed to actually help address issues that Raghav and I both saw whilst working in the hospital. CancerAid is, I guess, an evolving solution. So our app actually addresses 4 key issues that we saw day to day whilst working in the hospital. For our first solution, we provide patients with personalized cancer information. This is where patients will learn about their type, site, diagnosis, pathology, and stage. When I see patients in clinic, I discuss the information verbally, but I don't necessarily provide anything written. So what CancerAid actually allows is that patients can read the information at their own pace, take the information home, and talk about it with their family. For our second solution, we provide a journey organizer. So we have a personal journal where patients can microblog their experiences. We've got a symptom journal as well as a medications area. We're very excited to actually announce the launch of our third solution, which is actually called Champions. Champions is something we've been working on for about 6 months, and it actually allows the patient to nominate a support network of personal champions and medical champions. These champions can actually monitor progress of their loved one, who we call the hero, and they can provide care without being face-to-face, which is quite cool. And we know that living with cancer is a very isolating experience for many. So what we actually are providing is a community, allowing patients to connect with others going through similar experiences. So right now it's a newsfeed similar to Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, where we have patient stories, caregiver stories, motivational quotes, cancer news, cancer tips, and cancer research. We've got some exciting components which we've been working on, which we'll be releasing over the next few months. And it would be great to, I guess, hear feedback from your audience, Christy, and try and improve the app to make it even better for patients.
Fantastic. So we've got the newsfeed, we've got the section where essentially patients can put all of the diagnosis and treatment information. There's the journal component and the champions component and the community component, or is that sort of part of everything in there?
Yeah, community is actually a big focus of what we're doing because by far it's what we call the most sticky aspect of the app. It's the most utilized amongst patients and caregivers. It's a big focus of what we're doing. So when we originally designed it, we had the cancer profile as the home screen, And we established very early on that most patients, when they log in, don't want to be reminded they have cancer. So we created the newsfeed to kind of improve the quality of life for patients and kind of act like a distraction technique, with really empowering and compelling stories that our users can engage with.
And where are you getting the stories from for the newsfeed? Where do they come from?
So a lot of the stories that we actually develop are from patients and caregivers who use the app. So we've created a lot of content ourselves.
Yep.
We source news research globally from peer-reviewed, medically reliable sources. The motivational quotes we design ourselves. So in that way, we're content creating as well.
Sure. So essentially, I mean, looking at all the elements of the app, it's replacing a lot of things that you might have done manually previously. So the journal component, I know for myself, I had a journal which I wrote in. Certainly the diagnosis component, where again I had a little book with all of my appointments and all of my treatments and all of that sort of stuff in it. So it's chucking all of that in there together. But then the section I'd like to delve into a bit more, which is of real interest, is the champions component, which is where you can essentially link with family and friends. For them to, probably cheer you on is not the right words, but provide support for you. How does that section work, and sort of explain that in a bit more depth?
Yeah, so Champions allows the patient, who we call the hero, to nominate their support network of champions. For personal champions, they can be their spouse, family member, friend or work colleague. For medical champions, it can be their doctor, their nurse, or allied health team member. And what a champion user can do upon signing up can actually view aspects of their hero's profile. So they can view their cancer information, treatment information, any of the journal entries, the medications area, and soon our appointment section as well. So there's certain value for a champion being a champion for their hero. So we know that having a support network can be quite powerful, and what we're trying to actually do with the component is improve the quality of life of the hero. We know that patients who have family members and friends who are either at work or interstate or in another country aren't able to keep informed very easily with their loved one. So now they can easily just share everything going on in their journey in real time, which is quite cool. Mm-hmm. And then there's some patients who don't have the same health literacy to explain what's going on with their cancer and why they're being recommended certain treatments. So their champions might actually have that health literacy. So it can actually help with the personal champions' confusion, anxiety with their loved one as well. So that's the benefits for the champions. I guess the benefits for the heroes are, we know that having a support network can be very motivating. So we're trying to, improve patient outcomes from using an app like ours. And we know that most patients don't want to go around to every single person they know and say, I've got cancer, this is what's been going on. So it actually allows an ease of communication of what's going on with the patient, and they can share their results if they would like, their experiences. If they would like to share it, they can do that. And I think just the whole feature itself is very reassuring. We're trying to address the fact that a lot of patients and their family members can have anxiety and depression with a lot of different aspects during their journey. So that's how the premise for Cancer Aid started, and something we're really trying to build on.
Yeah. I really think that's fantastic. I love that concept, and you're very right. When you do have a diagnosis, and then you find out about, what type and stage of cancer and so on, and then the treatments, you literally have to tell ridiculous amount of people, your immediate family and your friends. Half the time you forget bits and pieces. Half the time you might say something wrong, or you've asked a family friend to pass on all of the information and they get half of it wrong. So allowing them to access, this information in one spot where you've been able to record it, probably take some time to take a few deep breaths and make sure that you get all the information right is absolutely fantastic. And then for them being able to support you through that space as well is, I think that's fantastic. And it's obviously something that's much more personal, I suppose, in the app, which sounds like, those two words shouldn't go together, but they do, rather than just having the technical diagnosis information and so on. There's a real personal connection element to it.
Exactly. And you mentioned something yourself, Christy, when you said that you were keeping a journal of what was going on during your journey.
I still am, but you'll be pleased to know I've downloaded the app. So
Great. So when you were first, I guess, recording your entries in your journal, I guess what's more powerful is being able to share that with people around you. So I actually met a patient today who actually said that his family members and support network went through more anxiety than he did, and didn't really, I guess, discuss it with either himself or other people around their network. So I think, having an ability to share entries such as the journal is quite important. And certainly there's a certain aspect of having a personal blog that only is kind of like very personal. You don't share that is quite important. But I think by sharing it, you can do a few different things, which is, hopefully seeking help and getting the support you need.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look at all the elements of this app now, and I used so many different things to do all of these things that this app is now doing. So it's really exciting that it's out there. And, to be honest, Nick, I'm really surprised somebody hasn't done this earlier.
There are thousands of cancer apps out there. Yeah. I guess we're lucky in that a lot of our competitors that are trying to do similar things haven't got it right yet.
Yeah.
And I think where our app kind of differentiates is because we are doctors, and I guess having that kind of medical expertise and seeing lots of patients and talking and experiencing different motions and issues that patients and their families went through, we've kind of put that all together into what we thought would be, I guess, important to patients and families. And we've designed it with patients, caregivers, and clinicians. So there was a lot of, I guess, user insight that we captured before even designing it, just to make sure we were developing the right product.
Yeah.
And we like to think we're creative. So each 2 to 3 months, we're designing a new component, which we've been releasing. We've got some really exciting new features coming out over the coming months, which we can talk about. But the main one is actually having an expanded version of the journal to include your treatments, nutrition, exercise, and also a large, I guess, resources component as well. So regardless of where you are in the world, you can access and find resources that would be relevant to help you along your journey.
Wow, fantastic. When's that coming out?
I think give us 3 months. There's certain priorities. We can't build everything at once, and we'd love to, but it's not a good development process if we do that.
Of course. You've got to take time and get things right.
Yeah. But yeah, anyone listening to this podcast, if you have requests for what we should put in the app, we'd love to hear them. We're in that phase now where we can capture a lot of requests and prioritize them from that way. We do get a lot of requests for a calendar functionality to allow appointments to be, entered and recorded and prompted. We also get a lot of requests for, medical records and, streamlining the fact that patients do move around to different hospitals and different clinics and settings that, it'd be good to have a good, nice continuity of care of the medical record.
Sure.
We're trying to build on that. So, it'd be great to hear everyone's thoughts on, what we should do from that side. And, one that I'm particularly excited about is actually expanding on the community. So really making it dynamic where patients can log in, they can discuss different topics, search for different interests, actually speak and connect with others going through similar things. So if someone was being recommended chemotherapy, they could talk to someone else about their side effects. If someone got recommended a surgery, they could talk to someone else who's already had that operation. Having it really dynamic where patients can connect and learn from each other, I think will be quite useful.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that is something that happens in the app down the track. I think something like that would be great. I mean, again, from a personal perspective, when you're able to talk to somebody that has gone through, it's never the same, but a similar process certainly is very helpful.
Definitely.
Now, with the app itself, obviously, if you have just had a cancer diagnosis, I think that is obviously the ideal time to download an app like this, because pretty much from day one, you can start getting everything in there. And you really don't need then a book for your appointments and another book for your journal and another area to go and research your news and that sort of stuff. It's all in there. But I think something that I really like about it as well is that it's not just for that initial diagnosis and treatment period. I mean, I'm 5 years down the track now, and I just downloaded the app some time ago and I've started populating it. It's still very relevant for me now to use and have all of that sort of stuff in there. And I found the news feed particularly very interesting. So I think that's a really important point, especially for our women listening, that definitely if you've just had a diagnosis or you're, early days in that, it's for you, but really it can be used at any time.
Exactly. I think you're right. I think newly diagnosed patients who are quite overwhelmed and don't know where to look for the right information, it's a great resource to streamline finding peer-reviewed, medically reliable information.
Yeah.
All the content we source is actually from probably the most reputable source in the world, which is the National Cancer Institute in the US. They have the most comprehensive list of cancers as well as treatments, and we believe by leveraging that relationship, we've actually got probably one of the best resources for information, and a lot of the feedback we get is how useful it is from that point of view. I think there are certain different aspects that patients would find useful, and making the perfect solution and perfect app for everyone is quite difficult. So, we always say that our app isn't perfect and we're always trying to improve on it. I think what we might find is that, finding information could be even automated. So we wouldn't actually need the doctor to be sitting with a patient to explain what information they should be searching. It could actually just be streamlined from the hospital system onto the patient's phone, which is quite cool. But that's still a few way down the track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now the app is for really anyone with a cancer diagnosis. So we're talking any type of cancer, right?
Yeah, I think what we found is actually patients with any type of cancer can find benefit from using the app, but also caregivers. So anyone that knows someone with cancer can certainly find some benefit about learning about what's going on with their loved one, but also, how they can help and support. We try to, I guess, allow it to be used by everyone. So we want even, I guess, the general public without any relationship to cancer or any kind of family members or friends with cancer to find it useful as well. So soon we'll be expanding on our screening aspects to the app and finding information on how to prevent cancer. So hopefully we can, find it's even more relevant to even more people around the world.
Yeah, awesome. It's really exciting. The whole app concept is amazing, and obviously you guys are continuing to develop and just do some great things with it, which is awesome. And I think one of the best things about it from a user perspective, well, not one of the best, but one of the great things is that it's free. So there is absolutely zero charge for anyone with a cancer diagnosis or any of their caregivers or anyone really to download and use the app. So that's obviously going to continue, right?
Correct. Yeah. That was one of the reasons we started this in the first place is because we think healthcare should be free. So a big part about what we do as a company is actually figuring out how to ensure that it's free to patients. So we have a revenue model which we kind of license the app to different institutions. That model actually allows it to be free, and which is probably one of the reasons we've been so successful on the app stores is because it is free.
Yeah.
We've already got the #1 cancer app in not just Australia, but also in the US and the UK. And we're seeing our user base growing, and we're quite happy with how far we've come. I think the app will always be free. I don't see it ever changing with our model. I think access to something like Cancer Aid should always be free. Yes. So I don't see the need for why patients should have to pay even more out-of-pocket expenses for, helping with their care if they're already out of pocket from, going to the hospital, going to appointments, having treatments, that sort of thing.
Yeah, agree entirely. I mean, going through cancer is difficult enough. Then there's the added expense on top of it. If there are some things out there that can help us that don't cost anything, then that's awesome. Obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, I've got to ask you, obviously, I'm sure a lot of our listeners would have seen you guys as well on the TV show Shark Tank, and you were fortunate enough to get some investment off that. So just give us a quick snapshot of how that experience was for you guys.
Yeah, it was fantastic. We were over the moon with the outcome, and leading up to the show, we were quite nervous. So going on a show like Shark Tank, where you're pitching in front of investors on, a live recorded TV kind of session is very daunting, and it really exposes yourself and the company. So we were quite nervous going onto it. I think from what we were doing, we were quite happy and pleased that all 5 sharks we pitched to made us offers in the episode.
Yeah, which is amazing, really, because they're pretty tough nuts to crack.
Yeah, it was very humbling to receive that, I guess, support and interest. So we ended up picking the 2 that we found the most appealing for what we were trying to do with the company. Mm-hmm. And we actually shot this last November, so our company hit some milestones, and we grew actually after the show. Mm-hmm. And so we've ended up getting a different investment for what's called a higher valuation from just one of the sharks, which was Andrew Banks. But that relationship we've been leveraging with him has been quite important for what we're doing with the company as well. We know that in Australia we have a big network, and we know how to, I guess, market this product in Australia, but taking it internationally is it's an even bigger task. And, we don't have experience with scaling initiatives like this overseas, but a mentor like Andrew Banks, who's scaled businesses overseas, can definitely expand our operations and, help with the initiative from that point of view as well. So we're quite excited to be working with him, actually.
Yeah, fantastic. So you shot last November, so you've obviously been working with him for a little while now.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. We're seeing a lot more success in the US, and he's actually based there. So, we're quite excited with how things are going over there.
Oh, fantastic. And what about yourself, Nick and Raghav? You guys have obviously, I think we said it in the intro, you've made the switch from conventional medicine to digital medicine. How are you guys both going with that change and working full-time now on this project?
Yeah, I love it. So I worked on this as a hobby for 18 months, and it's a new passion for me. It's something where I've found a new skill set which I didn't know I had. Yep. And I do kind of appreciate the fact that clinical medicine is important, but the way I look at this new field of digital medicine, what we've been doing is actually having the opportunity to help even more patients and families than ever before. Yeah. And it's fun. Like, I treat this new job as a hobby. Raghav and I both work pretty much every day, 7 days a week. So, but we love it. It's not a job for us. So, it was a big kind of step to quit from the hospital system into this new field of being in a startup. Yeah. We've taken pay cuts. We went without a salary for a while, but we really were invested in the initiative, and we knew what we were doing was going to one day hopefully pay off. But, something that we both got really excited for.
Yeah, well, I think when you're passionate about something, it's easy to spend all day, every day doing it, isn't it?
Exactly. And oncology and cancer care is something that, we've got a lot of experience in. One of the reasons we chose oncology is because it is quite a rewarding field to work in. I think you do need to have a personality that's suited to look after patients that unfortunately have cancer, but both of us seem to have personalities where we can excel in taking care of patients. Mm-hmm.
And I suppose, look, from your perspective, and the exciting thing about what you guys are doing is the fact that you're able to take what you know from a medical perspective and just apply it on such a bigger scale, and who knows where technology will take us in 10, 20 years. Who knew this would have even been possible 20 years ago? But amazing that. And I suppose that's probably what excites you too as well, that you can the reach of something like this is phenomenal, and therefore the impact is the same.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got some great ideas. We've been working very closely with Apple's Cupertino team in San Francisco, and we came up with this idea that we could actually use the app integrated with the Apple Watch that tracks heart rate, and another device that can track temperature to hopefully predict that we can reduce one of the complications of chemotherapy called febrile neutropenia. So if we can pull that off, it'll be quite exciting. And, I think over the next few months to 12 months, we'll see something cool like that hopefully launch.
Yeah, wow, that's very exciting.
Cool. Do you want me to chuck Raghav on?
If you'd like to, if he's there, yeah.
Just for that question about how our change has been?
Yes.
He's just here.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, that'd be great.
Hello.
Hi, Raghav. Christy here. How are you?
Hey, Christy. Nice to meet you. How are you going?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. So I've just asked Nick about how the change was for you both going from clinical medicine to digital medicine. So I suppose from your perspective, I'm really keen to hear how you've how that shift has worked for you and how you're enjoying it and what that means for you in the future.
Yeah, no, I think great question. The shift has been challenging, but I guess the key word that I like to say is impact. As a clinical doctor, you certainly have an impact in that patient's day. That particular moment, you're sitting there with them, you have the impact of making that interaction with them as optimized as possible. The opportunity to do that in a digital way actually has far-reaching sort of consequences. So, for example, by creating CancerAid, you give patients tools that actually allow for themselves to engage in their own health, not just in that clinic appointment, but actually outside that clinic appointment. So when they're sitting in the park, when they're sitting in the pub, when they're sitting at home, wherever they are, they're able to utilize the tool that you've created to improve their health. And that, for me, has a greater impact than potentially just being in that interaction for 15 minutes. You're busy, you've got so many things distracting you as a doctor. We know there was a really, really good article that came out of ASCO, which is the world's largest cancer conference, a month ago, which showed that very simple digital tools, actually one which has lower functionality than CancerAid, improve the overall survival across cancer patients by 5 months. And that's in a randomized trial. So they had two groups of patients. One group of patients didn't get the digital tool, and one group of patients got the digital tool. The digital tool is very simple. It just allowed patients to engage in their own health by inputting symptoms. Exactly what we have, the symptom manager component of CancerAid. By doing that, what happened is you're able to track sort of your symptoms going from low symptoms to medium to worse symptoms and act on them earlier. And that, that dogma that all doctors learn, that problems are easier nipped in the bud, becomes more evident to the patient, also to the provider of that sort of that healthcare episode. So when you go to the doctor and you say, look, this is how my pain or nausea is trending, it makes a lot more sense to have data points, not just off that one episode of you sitting in the clinic room with the doctor, but also of what's happened in the last 3 days when you've been at home at different parts and really understanding that problem. So I think there's a real big solution there for tools such as CancerAid to solve. We get that feedback from patients. That randomized data was the first in the world of ever to see a digital tool achieving such incredible results. So it's an exciting time in this world of digital medicine. We're hoping to show some of those results within our own platform as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's so exciting that there's actually research now that is proven research of the impact on health outcomes using that digital platform. It
was a plenary session at ASCO, which is sort of the source of truth for, every hospital would have doctors who travel to this. It's 100,000 oncologists in Chicago. It's huge. And to have that as a plenary session shows number one, the interest, and number two, the acceptance of the wider community that digital tools actually make a difference to patients' lives, far more so than things like chemotherapy and radiotherapy. Certainly, they have their very important role.
Of course.
But this is almost without any. There's no negative side effect to patients utilizing digital tools. It can only enhance their experience. So that's I think there's a low-hanging fruit there that we have to look at as a community.
Absolutely. And just look, obviously with the production of an app as well, the sheer reach that you guys are able to, I suppose, achieve by doing that means that you can, personally, that must be an amazing feeling that you're able to impact so many people's lives.
Yes, and I mean that's exciting. I mean, it's not just that one patient that you sit in front of you. It's potentially, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, and hopefully one day millions. We really do believe in this, and that's the reason why we've put clinical medicine to a side, because if you're going to do something, you need to give it your full attention. And I think doing something in halves is probably not appropriate. Certainly, Nick and I believe that. And the change for the company and the product has been evident since we've both worked on it full time.
Yeah.
We encourage others who are interested in this similar field to come reach out to us. And if we have lots of opportunities within CancerAid, and we love fostering that sort of mindset as well.
Yeah, oh, fantastic. Well, look, congratulations on the product. Obviously, Nick and I chatted a very good while about it there. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, the audience for this podcast is women with a breast cancer diagnosis. I know they will love it. So I'd encourage them, if they haven't already downloaded it, to definitely get onto it today.
Yeah, to download it and to use it. It's not just the downloading, yes, but also the using of it actually has tangible benefits. We're obviously going to be making a lot more improvements. I'm sure Nick has talked about that, yes, over the next few sort of iterations of the app. But what we want people to use is actually download the app, but actually log their symptoms, share it with their family and friends, get people within your network involved in your journey. That does have better outcomes.
Yeah, and look, if there's only one app, we spoke at the beginning of the podcast about different apps people can use. If there's one app they can use after a cancer diagnosis, this really has to be it. It has all the elements of what you need, I think, and so I would really encourage people to download it and, as you say, use it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity of speaking.
Okay, well, thanks, Raghav, for that. So back to you, Nick. I suppose the key message here is that definitely for all of our listeners, if you haven't yet downloaded the CancerAid app, definitely go on today and do that. But don't just download it. Make sure you start using it and having a look at all the features in there. And as the guys have said, if there's any suggestions or feedback, they'd be more than happy to receive them. So do get in contact with them and let them know. But Nick, thank you very much for joining me on the podcast today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I really do wish you and Raghav all the very best for the CancerAid app. And maybe we'll chat again further down the track when you've got some new and exciting developments you can share with us.
Yeah, thanks for having us on your show, Christy, and we'll keep in touch.
Fantastic. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks for listening to the Pink Movement podcast. For episode notes, links and downloads, head to thepinkmovement.com.au. Like what you're hearing? Join our Facebook page, subscribe through iTunes, and while you're there, provide a quick review. Want to help out? You can support the ongoing production of this podcast by becoming a patron. Find all the details on the website. The Pink Movement Podcast, helping you to stress less, move more, and feel better.